What's up? It's your buddy, your pal, Danny D, commentator, hardcore historian, lifelong fan of 90s hardcore wrestling. Today we're going to dive deep into 1996 ECW. When I first saw ECW, something felt different about it. The crowd was different, the energy was different, the wrestlers felt different. It wasn't polished, it wasn't clean, it wasn't corporate, it felt dangerous. It felt underground. It felt like something I probably wasn't supposed to be watching, which when you're a teenager makes things even better. And me and my friends were hooked from the moment we saw it. We'd wait till my dad wasn't around. We'd clear out the space in the house or the backyard. We'd have our own ridiculous hardcore brawls like we saw on TV, like Sabu, Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, whoever else we saw get thrown through a table. Looking back now, I get why it connected with me. I was a kid who didn't always feel like he fit in. Hardcore wrestling gave me a place to belong. Showed me characters getting knocked down, beat up, betrayed, bloodied, broken, and they kept standing up. They kept coming back. And that mattered to me because I needed that grit and determination in my own life. Now I'm 41 years old, and somehow I'm not just watching wrestling anymore, I'm stepping closer to the world I fell in love with as a kid. My professional goal now is to become a commentator, a wrestling journalist, a storyteller, and a hardcore historian. And before I got a chance to peek behind the curtain of my local independent wrestling company, wrestling was this untouchable memory from my childhood. It was kind of like magic. But now I see another layer. I see the travel, the injuries, the sacrifice, the pain, the politics, the obsession, the drive it takes to chase your dream, even when you feel tired and you don't want to keep going. I've even been dragged into a few feuds myself. I suffered an eye injury, and apparently I've been picked up a few stalkers along the way. Looking at you, Carnage Coalition. And that's why I created this series. I don't want to watch ECW again. I want to study it. I want to go back through ECW with fresh eyes, a fresh perspective, someone that's breaking into the business. Not just as a fan, but as someone trying to understand what made this thing work. Was ECW violence for the violence sake, or was there always a reason behind the chaos? Was I looking back at hardcore wrestling through these rose-colored glasses and nostalgia? Or was ECW actually special, raw, and revolutionary as I felt when I first saw it? That's what I want to find out. To find that out, we have to go to what better place to start than 1996. This is before ECW became a full-blown legend, before the myth was completely formed, before everyone copied the style. 1996, where we can watch ECW becoming ECW. I'm going to watch every episode of ECW Hardcore TV from 1996 that I can find. I'm going to review the major events, follow the storylines, track the feuds. I'll look back at the backstage chaos that helped build that myth. And to understand ECW in 1996, we also have to go back 30 years. And you have to remember, this was a completely different world. There were no streaming apps, no YouTube archives, no Peacock, no WWE Network, no search it and watch it now. If you missed a wrestling show, you were out of luck. And TV, kids were still playing outside until the streetlights came on. And when they were inside, TV was getting louder, rougher, and more rebellious. Jerry Springer was turning talk shows into public brawls. Cops made real-life chaos feel like entertainment. Shows like The Simpsons, Married to Children, Beavis and Butthead at MTV are pushing culture towards something more anti-authority. South Park was just around the corner, and ECW didn't just come out of nowhere. ECW came from the culture that was ready to stop pretending TV had to behave. If you wanted to see the real chaos, you needed something called a tape. That was EC's underground distribution machine. In 1996, ECW didn't have the national reach of WWF or WCW. Hardcore TV existed, but depending on where you lived, you might not have access to it. So ECW spread it another way, through VHS, through mail order, through fan copies, through something called tape traders, through people saying, man, you gotta see this. A fan in Philadelphia might record Hardcore TV or buy an official ECW tape or get a raw fan cam from a live event. Then that tape would get copied and mailed to another fan in another city, and then that fan would copy it again. Suddenly ECW is traveling across the country one VHS tape at a time, not through a giant corporate machine, through obsessed fans of VCRs. Before clips went viral, they went postal. The ECW didn't need a national TV empire to spread. It had VHS tapes, obsessive fans, and moments so wild people felt obligated to show somebody else. And that's how the myth grew. A fan might have not have watched ECW every week, but they sure as hell saw one of the tapes. Tape of Sabu crashing through a table, Taz dumping someone on their heads, Raven cutting a dark, twisted promo, Tommy Dreamer surviving punishment, the Gangsters bringing chaos, Cactus Jack turning against hardcore, the Eliminators looking like actual killers, Rob Van Dam showing up with a style that felt like it was from the future. One tape became a recruiting tool. One fan showed it 5 friends, one friend copied it, another mailed it across the country. Suddenly, ECW fans in places ECW had never run were seeing ECW. That was the power of 96 ECW. Local TV gave it the heartbeat, live events gave it credibility, but VHS gave it revenue, and tape trading gave it reach. Word of mouth gave it mythology. In modern terms, ECW is doing what marketers and content creators do now, before content creators had the tools. ECW had a niche audience, a clear identity, a flagship show, and direct-to-consumer products, community evangelists, viral moments before the internet made anything viral. The only difference was the algorithm was a guy with 2 VCRs and a mailing address in his basement. And ECW wasn't the only thing fans were hunting down. In 1996, if you were deep into hardcore wrestling, one of the tapes people whispered about was IWA Japan's King of the Deathmatch tournament from Kawasaki Stadium. That was Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk. There was exploding barbed wire, flaming chairs. That wasn't mainstream wrestling. That was underground mythology on VHS. Before YouTube clips, before ESPN archives, before everything was searchable, hardcore wrestling had legends you had to hunt down. In 1996, King of the Deathmatch tape was one of the holy grails. That tape matters because it shows what hardcore fans were chasing that era. Not just matches, evidence. Evidence that wrestling could be more dangerous, could feel more underground, could be more real feeling than anything WWF or WCW were showing us on Monday nights. While all this was happening, ECW was building its own world, a world filled with names I'm stepping into as a historian and a fan. Names like Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, Raven, Terry Funk, Cactus Jack, Sabu, Taz. Names that you definitely know in professional wrestling today: Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, Lance Storm, Bam Bam Bigelow, Too Cold Scorpio. And names that were built in ECW like Mikey Whipwreck, Stevie Richards, the Blue Meanie, the Pitbulls, the Eliminators. Some of those names I know, some I recognize, and some I don't fully understand yet. But that's the point of this series. I'm not coming into ECW 1996 pretending I know everything. I'm coming to learn, to study, to relive it, and to preserve it. And the big question I'm going to ask is, does it hold up? Was ECW just violence for violence sake? Or was there something deeper under the blood, the chairs, the tables, the promos, and the chaos? Was I just looking at this with nostalgia? Or was ECW 1996 one of the most important blueprints for modern professional wrestling? This is ECW 96. This isn't a finished legend. It's not a polished documentary. It's not the myth before everyone copied it. It's the beginning of something that didn't fully understand what it was becoming until we look back at it. And I'm Danny Deathwish, your guide, commentator, hardcore historian, lifelong fan of 90s wrestling, and this is where we begin. In the next video, we're going to be starting with House Party 96 and talking about what led up to that event and what actually happened during those matches. I'm Danny Deathwish, and this is my deep dive into ECW 96. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.